First of all, lack of faith. This would be my first definition, or one possible definition of unbelief. That is to say, when a person does not have faith, in its extreme forms, we have atheism. I'm sure you already know the notion here. An atheist believes that there is no God. For whatever reason, in historically in the Western world, this has been a bit more complicated because normally they have a very long history of rationalism, and so therefore the denial of God was there already from the very start and in progress. I won't enter into that anymore because that is a very complicated historical process. So if you meet, I know some of you have met persons who have been formed already in this mindset, in this mentality, it's impossible to reason out with them. Because as soon as you hear nila, if you say, you try to prove that there is a God, all that they will say is, yes, I respect your belief. You respect my unbelief. You put it that way. No? So, okay lang tayo. Basta kung naniniwala ka, hindi ako naniniwala, so we're good. Don't try to force me to believe what you believe. So, this is created a certain tension, a certain difficulty. No? So, there is no God. But maybe just to highlight this, because sometimes I'm puzzled, because if an atheist says, there is no God, then my question is, if there is no God, why do we even bother to prove that there is no God? If there's no God, why do you have to say, I do not believe in God? In the first place, it doesn't make sense. Huh? Okay, but then let's give them the benefit of the doubt. So I just wanted to say that's one form, one of the extreme forms of unbelief, atheism. And then you have agnosticism. I cannot know if there is a God. So, meaning it's impossible for me to know the existence of God. Now, why there can be different factors? Sometimes they will say, how can there be a God when there is so much evil and suffering in the world? How can there be a God if, let's say, you find all sorts of sicknesses, or maybe they might rationalize from the perspective of the good. If they say that there is a God and who is supposed to be good, how come we find evil in this world? So therefore, we cannot really know if there is a God. Of course, we do know that it is possible to arrive at the knowledge of God just simply using our reason. But of course, it is not a perfect way of approaching God because of our human weakness. And also because to believe is actually, it requires willingness. A person will not believe if he does not want to believe. So the disposition of wanting to believe already has to be there. Okay, but then that's what agnosticism is all about. And then you have this milder form of a lack of faith, which is a lack of absence or absence of knowledge due to the absence of religious formation. This is the more common one now. You find that at least here in our country and also maybe in other countries, people do not have the formation that we had before. Or maybe, I don't know how old you are, but then, in my case, I still can say, nung bata pa ako, at least sa eskwelahan, Catholic school, tinulong ka na tungkol sa Diyos, you learn the basics of religion, the catechism, but then I realized that over the years, this has weakened, and especially the problem also is in families who lack religious formation, and so therefore, they in turn do not transmit the same formation to their children. So it has been watered down over the years. I have been teaching college students for many years, something like 17 years, and then 12 years I was assigned to another assignment. And then just last year, I was back to teaching. And I realized talking to the students, at least here in our country, they have faith, but it is imperfect because you realize that they never received a firm faith from their parents. Unang, in other words, yung religious formation. So therefore, this I think is a big problem. The lack or absence of religious formation. It is weak in many of the people nowadays. Okay, that is one notion of unbelief. Another notion of unbelief, skepticism. One suspends judgment about knowing God. That would be the way to define what skepticism is. A skeptical person is a person who say, what do I can really know God? Maybe yes, we can know Him, but then the person is uncertain. There is an in-between stage, between accepting God or not accepting Him. So one is skeptical. Usually this applies to miracles. The crossing of the Red Sea, miracle ba yan? Or can that be explained by natural causes? What about the curing of the lame person or the blind by Jesus Christ? Can that happen? Because maybe the person say, nowadays, I do not experience people that incur from their blindness or from the, so kung buka, sometimes in the healing session, some are cured, others are not. So then the person is skeptical. The knowledge of the truth is uncertain. One cannot arrive completely at the knowledge of the truth. And so therefore, applied to the faith, that means that whether or not I believe, well, it depends. I have my doubts. I don't think these certain things can happen. I do not accept so much supernatural realities. I accept only what I can see, what I can sense. So it is the absence of commitment. One does not commit oneself to believing. Remember I said earlier, to believe requires willingness. I have to want to believe. And then if I want to believe, that what follows already is, okay, I want to believe, I want to know more. So because I want to believe, I want to find out more about God. I want to study more perhaps, or like many of you, I want to read the Bible, analyze it, I want to read books about the Catholic faith so that I go deeper and all. But then you notice, you have to want to. If you do not want to, you will not do it. So that's why a skeptical person doesn't commit himself or herself. So absence of commitment to believe. And then you have this other one, rejection of belief. So one might think, hindi ba pareho dito sa atheism at sa agnosticism? Not really. Because atheism understand is already from the beginning saying, I do not believe that there is a God. Agnostics, I do not know, I cannot know if there is a God or not. But this one is that, yes, I may have been brought up in the Catholic faith, but I reject it. So non-acceptance of the tenets of belief. Well, mas matindi ito. Kasi you already knew the faith, but now you reject it. Usually I notice, at least here in the Philippines, when I met people like this, it is not because of rational arguments. It is because of maybe some traumatic experience. For example, say, nakaway na si Father. Nakaway na si Father. Di na ako naniniwala. Si Father, si Father alone. That's sometimes that happens. Or else, my parents, they say that they're Catholic, but then they do not live up to their Catholic faith. So why should I live the Catholic faith even though I was brought up as a Catholic? So that's already rejection. You already have accepted the faith. But then it also indicates weakness. Just like in the parable of the seed and the sower. So the seed that falls upon rocky ground lacks roots And because of that, bumibigay in moments of difficulty or challenges. So that acceptance. You have here, for example, in the history, in the sacred scriptures, this one, si Thomas the Apostle. It is an example of rejection, but afterwards repentance. Why? Because the apostles already told him, the Lord is risen. I do not believe until I touch, I put my hands on his side, then I will believe. So initially there is a rejection. I do not want to believe until I see proof. But then afterwards, he sees the proof and he believes. He said, my Lord and my God. But at the beginning, yes, it is an example of unbelief. So, in other words, pinapapasa pa yung mga nagre-reject the beliefs. There still is a possibility for them to go back to the faith. Now, you also have incredulity. That cannot be is unbelievable. Yeah? That's the usual expression. Mga milagro, unbelievable yan. Which also means that it implies that unless I can prove it, unless I can have rational arguments, or unless I can see and touch, then I will not believe. It's unbelievable for me. That's incredulity. And then you have this indifference. It is that I don't care. Or gusto rin ng kabataan, lalang. So, but do you practice the faith? Well, yes, well, something there. Among the young people, at least among the students that I have been teaching, many of them are at least indifferent to the faith. So, there are times they will go to Mass because their parents tell them, but if nobody tells them, they will not go to Mass. Why? What for? Anyway, again, I can live my life without the Mass. I can live my life without having to pray. So, for me, it's okay. So, the same difference. So, one doesn't want to commit oneself to the faith. One is saying things that, well, I'm okay with my life. I don't see the need for me to go any further. Okay, so this is the different parts of unbelief. I wanted to mention this because what I'm going to say afterwards will also apply to how to approach these different things in different ways. Because to understand, it's important, I think, to understand where other people are coming from. What is the basis of their unbelief? Because you will not argue in the same way with an agnostic or with a person who is simply indifferent or with a person who rejects the faith. So there are varied approaches depending upon the type of unbelief that the person has. So now, let's see now, having seen that, the different forms of unbelief, different approaches of apologetics. Now, I would say, what is the bottom line of apologetics? It is from 1 Peter, always be ready to give an explanation to anyone who asks you for a reason for your hope. Always be ready to give an explanation to anyone who asks you for a reason for your hope. So the theme is hope. If we have faith, we believe, and then we trust in God. So there is a reason why you and I are defending the faith. There is a reason why we pray. We know the reason why we go to Mass, even every day, why we go to confession. We have a reason why we follow the moral law. And then, because we do things for a reason. We do not just do things because I was born into this way of life. No, we do it because we know what we're doing. And in fact, that's what gives us hope. The closeness that we have to God is the basis for our hope. Why do I hope in God? I trust Him because I know that He is a Father, that He is my friend. And because of that, I live my faith even in the midst of difficulties and challenges. Now, that is giving a reason for our hope to others. I don't know if we have met people, in fact, I have gotten this feedback from several lay persons. Their friends who are far from the faith are sometimes impressed by the way they live their faith. So nagugulat sila, for example, they say, ano, hindi sila araw-araw. And di ba you have a large family, you have your work to do. How do you feel you're going to mass every day into your busy life? So really, there's something in them. It tells them that, well, if this person is able to do it, maybe it's possible for me to do it also. So even with my life, I give a reason for my hope to other people. But then, one can also explain why we are doing that. And then I think it's eventually, the bottom line of apologetics is to be able to help people understand that they too can live their faith the way we do. That it is not impossible to give a reason for our hope. So then, we also have this in defense of the faith. Why do we have to defend the faith? From Jude, the epistle of Jude. Beloved, although I was making every effort to write to you about our common salvation, I now feel a need to write you to encourage you to contend for the faith that was once for all handed down to the holy ones. So aside from giving a reason for our hope, of course, we're also going to meet persons who are skeptical, indifferent, agnostic, atheists, who reject the faith. So now, we have to contend for the faith. We have to give them reasons why they should believe. So therefore, apologetics also tackles that. That is another angle. The bottom line I said is that we, with our lives, give reason for other people to hope in God and to believe in Him. But then, there are moments that we have to defend the faith also. So, for example, let's say like, if there are persons who are skeptical or persons who attack the faith, evidently we cannot just keep quiet and allow the faith to be attacked. We have to defend it, evidently. So therefore, there is another aspect of the apologetics to contend for the faith. For example, let's say like, this one example that I can give about defending the faith in a way, but for my part as a priest, a student came to me, and she was asking me, Father, how come the church is against LGBTQ and against homosexual unions and all that? Hindi ba may karapatan din sila to live as the way they are? They don't have a right to be LGBTQ, don't have a right to also form homosexual unions. And then, of course, I have to explain to her why. Well, what's the reason for this? God made man, male, and female. He did not make them, so that, as they say, God created Adam and Eve. He did not create Adam and Steve. So that's one way of defending the truth of the faith, to make use of an anecdote like that or a saying. But more sometimes we have to go deeper. We have to explain, like in this particular case, of course, in a brief period of time, I couldn't explain the theology of the body, which should be the best degree to explain why man is male and female and why they are meant for each other as male and female. In any case, because in the University of Asia Pacific, the students, because we give a liberal arts education before they take their specialization, they have a course in the theology of the body. So this is it's one of the subjects that they have to take, theology of the body. They also have to go through the creed, the sacraments, and moral theology. So medyo matindi yung religious formation of binibigay namin. They also have ethics, and they also have marriage. So it's a very comprehensive philosophical and theological background that is given to them. But then, in the majority of other places, the students do not receive that. And maybe even as adults, I'm sure you would not have received all of these things that that we are living in now. So that is why it is important to also have the necessary knowledge, depending on our circumstances, to be able to also contend for the faith. So that two different approaches. One would be, as I said earlier, that of witnessing to the faith, giving a reason for our hope with our own lives, and then defending the faith through argumentation, reasoning, helping people understand. And then you have this other angle, the ecumenical movement, dialogue with other religions. I don't know if some of you may have, or you might be participating in dialogues with different faiths because of the places that you are in. I know that in some dioceses in Mindanao, they do have ongoing dialogues, and there are some people who participate in this. So that would be another angle, another aspect of apologetics, trying to see how to thresh out differences in beliefs. Of course, madaming level yan. There's not only one way of doing it. The ecumenical movement has many different steps and many different processes and stages. So it's a general thing. But nonetheless, that's another aspect of that apologetics. Because why apologetics? Because to agree with other religions doesn't mean watering down our faith. It doesn't mean saying, for example, oh, you believe that? Kami kasi we believe this. But, pag-usapan natin how we can come to some sort of middle ground. Oh, hindi ganun yun. Kasi if you water down your faith, you would not be able to give the truth to other people. So therefore, you have to stand up with the truth. You have to stand for it charitably, but you have to defend it. In fact, the church in the Second Vatican Council where it was warning of false Marianism, meaning that a false watering down of the faith in order not to bring too much difficulty in dialogue, which is wrong. We have to be very firm in our faith. I look at it this way. Let's say, salesman ka, you are selling a product. Of course, the product that you're going to sell, you try to always emphasize the good points, the good qualities. You're not going to say, well, this product, actually, hindi ito maganda. So, parang ito, and I remember, many years ago, we just had an example of this watering down. I don't know if some of you reached it because before him, wala akong mga cellphone, mga landline lang. So in at least the number one centers of the landline, minsan, may nasisira yung linya, nire-report mo sa PLDT, tagal-tagal, wala sa nagkakulit, patawag ulit, patawag maraming beses, wala pa rin, no? And then, so sometimes I remember, in one of the places I was in, we kept on complaining, calling up PLDT because the phone was busted, no? And then the person said, no, we've been already following this up for a long time, but nothing has been done. And then the person on the other side of the building said, asan ka talaga yan? Tagal talaga yan. So of course, if you water down your product, nobody will believe in your product. So that's the thing with the faith. You have to present the truth, which is the beauty of the faith, the truth about God, the truth about man, in all of its fullness, within the dialogue. And then of course, another area of apologetics is this debates. So I found this internet engineer in one of these debates. So yes, I mean, hindi ko mawala ito because there are some religions they wanted. And if there's somebody who can debate with them, well then, so we need persons who can also debate with other religions, because otherwise we always be left on the margins. It's one of the areas of the defense of the faith. Now, let me put the following. The summary of what I've been saying thus far in relation to this. It is another area that has to be tackled. The faith is involved, but then different forms of life and beliefs that also need to be addressed by apologetics. I got this from a book which if you can get a copy, I would recommend. It's the History of Apologetics. It was written by Avery Cardinal Dulles, who passed away already. Avery Cardinal Dulles was a famous cardinal in the U.S. His father used to be, I'm not sure if it was Secretary of State of the U.S. government. So Avery Cardinal Dulles is an intellectual who has written several books. One of his books before he passed away was this, The History of Apologetics. It's good to give you a good background of the apologetics movement, how it started from the very beginning, in defending against heretics, and then eventually developing in different forms all throughout the years until the present time. So then he said the following. Sorry, not him, but the one who wrote the introduction to the book, the preface, Timothy George. There is an urgent need for a common front against the Arenian ideologies of secularism, materialism, naturalism, and anthropocentric humanism divorced from the belief that individual men and women are infinitely valuable and cherishable by the God in whose image each one of them was made. So now, apologetics also have to contend not so much with Iglesia Ni Cristo, or with Balance, or with whatever other sects or reform, but against ideologies, what we mentioned here, secularism, materialism, naturalism, and this anthropocentric humanism, which is separated from God. So actually, these are the ideologies that give rise to modern day lifestyles. If you find children nowadays who tend to be liberal and materialistic, or who tend to be woke, right? That is a real, it's because of this, the different ideologies that have taken root in society. No, from my experience, here in the Philippines, we're in a way blessed also. Why? This is the following. The many of ideologies that the young people believe in now come from the US. Mostly US. Kung ano nasa US, mas mabilis pumunta dito. Yung mga ideas circulating in Europe, not so much. But the US, we tend to take in whatever comes to the US. But here's the good thing. We take them individually at the beginning, but afterwards, parang nawawala yan. So ibig sabihin, hindi ka matagal. So it's in a way, blessing in disguise also. But nonetheless, it has to be addressed because many kids fall into this without realizing it. And these different forms of ideology. So that's also another aspect of unbelief that we have to tackle. No, maybe at first I was thinking if I could include it here or not. But just yesterday and the day before, I attended the Diocese of Pasig because the university is in the Diocese of Pasig. So there was a 2-day seminar organized by the diocese on safeguarding minors and vulnerable adults. This is in relation to the sexual abuse. So all dioceses all over the world are supposed to train lay people and clergy on how to handle, how to address yung mga sexual abuse of minors and also of vulnerable adults. Now, when we were discussing with other priests, one of the alarming things that came out, which already I knew because I sensed this in the young people that I was dealing with in the school. I do not know if you also encounter it here in Cebu or in Mindanao, wherever you come from. The large number of suicide attempts on the part of young people. Suicide and self-harm. In self-harm, they cut themselves to feel the pain. And then one of the priests in pastor was telling me, that's why some of the young people nagtatago to hide the wounds, caused by self-harm. And then suicide attempts. And I noticed, I was surprised, but then there are several young people who are seriously thinking of suicide. And even in the case of some of the schools in Pasig, one of the priests was telling me, in one school, they even discovered like a barkada, and they already planned their suicides. So yung barkada nun, they would go committing suicide one after the other. So they were able to catch it immediately. Nagpamatay na yung dalawa, nagpapalaliba. But parang they didn't talk about it, and they planned their own suicide. And then, in the course of all of this, I'm talking to young people whom I have met, who have descendants, I ask them, how is your family? Okay naman yung family. But then, what about your talents, your quality, what you have? Meron mga talents. Studies. Okay naman yung studies. Why are they committing suicide? Because they do not see a future. They do not see something that they can strive for. And I was wondering, why? Everything is going for you. Okay yung pamilya mo, wala kang financial difficulties, wala kang mga talents, bakit kapag-isip ka na? Kapag-isip ka na ng future, when you have everything that is going for you to have a good future. But then somehow this kind of mentality has set in the minds of some young people. And I agree with you. Precisely, on the one hand with these ideologies that have arisen and which have affected ways of thinking. What is the value where they get all of this? Social media. There are a lot of influence from the social media, and that has done. So, if we were to think of apologetics brought to broadening, yeah, that's another area I think that also has to be addressed, because in the end, it is also a lack of hope in life and a lack of faith in God. It all boils down to that. When people do not see a future, it is because many times they do not trust in God. And maybe also because maybe their parents have not been able to guide them accordingly. So then, I just mentioned that as another area that perhaps may be addressed by apologetics. Now let me proceed. The challenges of modern-day apologetics. So here, I got this now also from the book, but not anymore from the in forward, but from Cardinal Dulles himself. He says, contemporary pluralism, moreover, is made it difficult to identify the adversary with whom the apologist should be in conversation. So it's related to what I mentioned before. So before, one could say, okay, debate ko yung taga-Iglesia ni Cristo, yung taga-Lipay, or this other religion or the other religion. Now, because of pluralistic society, you do not know who the enemy is. It is very difficult to identify. Maybe it might have been clearer before or to say, I will do apologetics with this person who does not believe in Jesus Christ. Yes, but then now, you do not find, you may find some persons like that, but generally, you must say, like, who do we have to dialogue with? Because there's so many influences nowadays. So it's like, that's one challenge, but I'm glad to do this. I believe it is because, depending on your circumstances in your parish, or in the milieu that you live in, or that you work in, you might have to identify new challenges which may necessitate a different approach now of apologetics. Not just simply debating regarding the faith, but it may necessitate going into other areas that, though they are influenced by the faith in some way, still are more in line with all of the modern ideologies that we're facing now. It's a new challenge. Before, we did not have to, I think, and then challenge our work along the time because there may have been no need. But then now, more and more, there is this need. And I would say, most especially among the more educated. That's the irony of God. The ones who tend to complicate themselves more are those who are more educated. Many times, I have experienced how the most uneducated persons tend to also be the simplest, the ones who have more faith, who have more piety. In my, because I also now on in the parish of the Holy Family, which is where UFA, University of Pacific is. And I celebrate masses in different chapels or in the parish itself. And I also have some outreach with some of the rest areas near UANP. I'm very happy to see very many people who might not be educated in another formal education, but who have faith. And you can really feel their faith. Oh, so without any doubt whatsoever in God. But then, when you go to the educated people, like you know, I just didn't wala, something so there's something that I need this thing. This contemporary pluralism is made at different, is given us different challenges now in working in doing apologetics. Okay, that's one area. Ito rin, social media influencers. But nowadays, that actually is not so much anymore on theologians or philosophers. Before, that used to be the case. Theologians and philosophers. I don't know if some of you still remember, in the 1950s, the church came on with what is called an index of prohibited books, because many of those books were Marxist in nature, or they had wrong theologies. Nowadays, there's no more index. Why? Because the amount of content in social media is so great that parang mawawala na yung influence ng mga libro, ng mga, well, I don't know if you saw one of these fun videos, no? A man in the library, naghanap ng libro, hindi mo makita. Then you approach the librarian. So, I'm looking for a book. What book? Facebook. So, many times, the book of people now is that. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Sometimes you find influencers who do not even have any theological or philosophical background, and they have a very large following. And sometimes whatever they post, even if it is unorthodox, even if it is not the truth, many people believe because they follow that particular person. So that is why I would say, kawawa naman yung mga theologians who are spreading wrong doctrines. Nobody listens to them anymore. They listen more to the other persons on social media. But then we know this is an apologetics challenge, social media. Now, it's not all negative. In fact, there are many positive things. One is that now, any one of you can also be a social media influencer for the good. So in this way, yung mga posts ninyo can be a very good way of doing apologetics also. Whereas maybe before, you could not do it because there was social media. So if ever you did it, it was only in your small circle of friends, or in your parish, or in your family. But now you can reach many other people with your posts. So it's also one thing. Maybe now also another venue of apologetics can be through that, through social media. And maybe you can even engage those who are spreading errors also on social media. And that now, anyone can do that now. So it's not only limited to a few people who can speak or who can deliver or who can debate. Now anybody can also counter the social media errors that are there. So I would recommend that would be one way of influencing now. And then another area to address, another challenge. Ignorance. ignorance of the faith. For me, this is a very big challenge because I've noticed in my years of teaching how more and more there are many students, young people, who no longer are influenced religiously by their parents or by the school. In fact, kung school ang pag-usapan, sometimes many Catholic schools, even though it was happening already before, and I'm sure all of you are aware of it, the teaching of religion has been watered down quite a lot. In many Catholic schools, they don't receive a solid formation in the Catholic faith. I'm happy to brag a little bit at least in UNB, solid pa rin. Because again, we have, imagine how we're teaching the children, we're teaching the kids there. I'm going to mention some subjects, but the creed, sacraments, moral theology, take isang semester yan, 3 units. And then they have ethics, 3 units. They have marriage and the family, 3 units. So they have philosophy, 3 units. History of the church, 3 units also. So that's part of the liberal arts program. But then I think that nowhere else will we find a school that has that. So meaning that at least we provide the necessary knowledge. But here's the thing, no matter how much knowledge the school gives, iba pa rin yung pamilya. And that's where I notice the weakness, no? Kasi we can teach them a lot of things, but then in the family, that's where the Waterloo is. But in preparation for this, I was also holding FGPs, focus group discussions with some of my students. So I wanted to get a feeling. Para sa kanila, what is unbelief? And how do they practice the faith? And what are the different things that are happening in their lives in relation to living the faith, in relation to apologetics. And although I sensed this already, because from confessions I would already hear it. But then, one thing that the kids were telling me is that for them, they don't really see the importance of living the faith. And then I asked them about their parents. It's because their parents either do not live the faith, that's why they don't see the importance, that's one thing. Or the opposite extreme, pinipilihan sila without explanation. So yan, yun ang para sa kanila, turn off sila doon. Kasi, Pastor Lewis said, because my parents just tell me, they go to mass, they do this, they do that. But then they do not explain why I have to do it. So it's like more than appreciating, sometimes they even become antagonistic to the faith because they feel it's been forced down their throat without much explanation. And I was happy to hear one of them tell me, Father, the only time we got a real explanation of the sacraments was from your class. That's the only way we learn the importance of the Mass, the importance of confession, the importance of why there's baptism, confirmation. So it is again, they never do it before. Neither in the school, neither in the family. So it's like this is another area that perhaps we have to think about other channels for doing apologetics in the sense of evangelization. The family and the schools. These are the two most influential areas for people nowadays, where they learn about the faith and go deeper in. Otherwise, they become ignorant of the faith. I can also cite, for example, this thing of the transmission of the faith in the family. From my own example, my own family. But about the comment, I remember my mom had a very deep devotion for God. So everyone is yan, so she would bring me and my other sister. Kasi the other two were still very young, and then my sister. Of course, me as kids, of course, who wants to go to the church? We just want to play, but you have to obey. Okay, so kami kailangan. Tapos sa planan. So when attracted us, yung mga nabuwan sa labas, yung mga ibon na binibenta, yung mga logo, And then when inside the church, we would just be there watching our mother pray the rosary, di ba? May palabod, di ba? Pumili down, all the way until the front. Tapos pabalik na naman. Tapos pabalik na naman. So habang umadan, nakawain na ako yung ganun. But then, I appreciate that our mom made us do that because she exposed us to the Mass and to the devotions. If I did not have that, and looking back at it, I don't know if I would still appreciate as I grew older when we got to understand the Mass and all of these other pious devotions. I don't know if I would have appreciated it much more if my mother had not shown that to us. So that's why I think the family is very important. Because now I have 100 kids, for example, they do not pray the rosary. They do not know how to pray it. Why? Because Father, we do not pray with the family. They do not go to Mass on Sundays. Why? Because my parents do not go to Mass, and their children do not go to Mass either. No? So you see, these are areas where we are different from apologetics also we have to be done. Schools and families because of the ignorance of the faith. So, finally, some tips for today's apologists. But first, I got this idea. It's a very humbling thought from Cardinal Donis. He says, in pressing the case for their discipline, apologists should keep in mind that it is neither necessary nor sufficient for sanitary acts of faith. It is not necessary, for we all know people who have strong faith without having ever read a word of apologetics. It is not sufficient, because faith is a grace given submission to the Word of God, not a conclusion from human arguments. So, reading this, I would think, does this mean that I didn't kailangan ng apologetics? No, that's not what Cardinal Donis was saying. But then he just wanted to ground us, to make us realize that, of course, we realize that, yes, we have to defend the faith, but at the same time, with humility, knowing very well that it is not absolutely necessary to do apologetics, because the fact is that there are people who, without even having encountered the faith in a formal way, still are very pious. And I'm sure you have people like that. Maybe your parishes, people like that. I think di ba lang, wala nang pinag-aralan, pero ang titig ng dasal, very pious, very Catholic faith, very Catholic knows. You tell them something that goes against Catholic doctrine, you will give that solid anything. Alam nila mali. Alam nila pinag-aralan, no? So that's why, in a sense, we must say it's not necessary because, of course, the Holy Spirit works in whatever way He wants to. It is not sufficient. Why? Because faith is given by God. All people wear as instruments in helping people understand the faith through apologetics. So, this one grounds us. Does this mean that, as I said, that apologetics is useless? No. I remember Frank Sheep in his work, Theology for Beginners, in the introduction, he was mentioning this following in the, he said that, yes, it is true that a person who does not have any theological knowledge, and he imagines, for example, like a pious Irish woman praying in the church, one cannot doubt her piety. But then he says, but if you can study the faith, obviously you should study it. Because it is not a virtue not to study the faith. Because if kung kaya pag-aralan, bakit hindi? No? So which implies that obviously, you also have to study the faith. You have to be able to defend it. You have to know what it is all about. So therefore, while we realize that yes, there's a need to defend the faith, there's a need to know it very well, there's a need to be able to express it in many different ways, still, it's important to know it is the grace of God also, not just simply human effort. So, halimbawa, kung makipag-debate ka sa Iglesia ni Cristo o sa Lipayan o whatever other, fine. Maybe you might even win the argument. But then, here's the thing. Will you convert, or would that person have been converted by having lost the argument? That's another thing to think about also. Did your arguments convince him that he therefore should renounce his faith and go to the Catholic faith? Sometimes yes, sometimes no. And then this where you see, because it's not because of my arguments, it's because of God hitting the soul of my person. He makes use of me as an instrument in order to convince the other person of the truth of the faith. So, this statement from Cardinal Balas does not say there should be no apologetics. No. In fact, that should remain. What he's saying is that, well, let's realize where all of this is coming from. It's not only from me, but it's coming from God. It is God who gives the growth. We just plant the seed. That's the way I like to see it. This thing of planting the seed, I think is a very good metaphor. The parable of the sower. Because the seed falls wherever it falls, depending on the type of ground. But then, it is not we who make it grow. It is God who gives the growth. But you have to plant. Kasi if you do not plant, walang tubo. So, then the question, Diyos pala yung mga, pero yung gagawin siya kung may tubo. Kasi kung nothing is planted, what will it make grow? If there's nothing planted. So that's why I would encourage you. Never get discouraged if sometimes you try to convince people about the faith. You do apologetics. You try to help other persons understand the truth. And then parang dead man. No reaction. Or maybe they might even counter you. Don't worry. You have planted the seed. And that's an important thing. You planted the seed already. So it's parang bumba, may time for a friend. So bakit ang Diyos ko lang yung Diyos ko yung person. But kailangan mo piyarin mo, you can feel the pound there, because nothing is grown. But this is another thing that I can attest to from my pastoral experience in the university. Because I said I've been teaching for many years. And then I also regularly hear confessions in our chapel there. And because we try to provide as many hours of confession as possible, mga chaplains and other priests who help us out. And then, what makes me very happy is when I'm hearing confessions, and then somebody goes to confession, and then says, Father, you are my teacher. And then maybe they were in their families, yung mga anak na, and then I taught them before. Then I realized, well, sometimes they identify themselves. No? And then I think, itong tao nito, kung taking theology, parang ito nakikilig. Parang, kumabagsak sa mga quiz. Pero tignan mo, ngayon, nauuwisan. So after so many years, the seed we planted. Because you have to plant the seed. When it will grow, that depends on God. It doesn't depend on us, but you have to plant it. So that's why apologetics has meaning in that sense. There is a vision. We still have a very important mission to carry out. Because if nobody plants, there is no plant that is going to grow. So plant, continue planting as much as you can. Plant in your families, plant in your parishes, plant in your places of work, plant in social media. So that's why don't be afraid to plant in social media. Never mind if sometimes you might think, may nothing ba ito? May nagbabasa ba ito? O kaya pinasa nila, may tatamaan ba sila? But that's not that was anymore. That's not the Bible already. Basta do whatever you can. That's the important thing. Now then, another thing. Choose your battles. Why do I say this? Because on one hand, we might not have enough knowledge, enough resources, enough time to fight all and every battles that we encounter. And then also because sometimes, if you feel that you might not be capable enough to explain something to a person, then maybe it's good to be humble enough to realize that. Because otherwise, if other people are listening, they might get confused still. No? So let's say, one of the things that I remember having read somebody say is that if you don't know the answer, don't pretend that you know. Maybe the other person, I can't answer you now about that. But then, kapag-aralan ko, I'll take a look at it, research it, and afterwards, balikan kita. Pag-usapan natin yan. So you see, that's a very good way, because at least we maintain contact, no? Hindi lang yung, hindi ko alam, usapan. No, kasi may connection na, so you can't pursue that connection. So choose your battles. Don't engage in all battles or in each other. See what you're capable of doing. And what the other person is also capable of understanding and knowing. And that's why it's certainly is also important here. Not all battles have to be fought. Sometimes the best is simply to ignore. Other times, one has to engage. And then one has to engage, but only up to a certain extent. Or one has to see something all the way through. So then, discernment na yan. So you try to discern what you really can do and what God is asking of you. And then this, the ascent of faith. Also from Cardinal Dallas, the Catholic Church has taught and continues to teach that there are sufficient signs to make the ascent of faith objectively justifiable. The task of apologetics is to discover these signs and organize them in such a way as to be persuasive to particular audiences. There is a point here that sometimes we may not appreciate as much. We have to realize, and I'm sure that we do, and that we are convinced, that the Catholic faith is the true faith. And so therefore, the Catholic faith has the power, because it's the truth, to transform persons, to change them. Of course, we're up against the devil, we're up against the consequence of original sin and of personal sins. But then, this conviction that the Catholic faith has already enough to be able to transform persons, that's true. Now, what is important is precisely to see how we can persuade other people with that truth. Yan ang challenge ng apologetics. The packaging, presentation. Kasi yung produkto, ano pinakamagaling eh. It's the best product that there is. But the important thing is, how do you package it? Now, maybe you might have seen before, years before, when maybe manufacturers and producers were not so concerned about the foreign market. So, the packaging, kahit ano lang, like plastic na packaging, yung labels na hindi masyadong maganda. But now we notice, more and more, people are concerned about the way they package the products. Yung bang, nakita mo, parang galing abroad ito, yung magaling. Well, see, even if the product itself might not be the best product, but the packaging matters. Now, in our case, we have the best product, we have the truth. But then, take care of the packaging. And how to approach the explanation of the truth. How to deliver the truth to people. How to bring out the beauty of the faith in different ways. So it requires discernment, and it requires also, I think, experience. It's like, let's say, experience is not where I am. I've not that much experience. Actually, you can get a lot of experience. How? By trying to explain your faith to your family, to your friends, other people around you. That's how you get the experience. Kasi kung makita, say you tell something about particular truth of the faith. Sabi natin na, nag-usap kayo, mga kaibigan, mga kapamilya, pamilya, no? And then, somebody says something, na ngayon lang, nalamanin ko sa sarili ko. Of course, you don't put in, bibigyan na sila saying, hindi yan, packaging, di ba? So you have to say that, what you might say, oh, why do you say that? What's behind it? You maybe try to listen, you try to understand where the person is coming from. And then, take an opportunity to explain the truth in whatever way you can. So practice yan eh. So you have to engage people. Huwag mong takbuhan. Yung mga people who are in error, people who are out of faith, people who don't understand. Don't run away from that. There's an opportunity to learn. See, that's the only, practice makes perfect. It's only by engaging persons to the family, you can get the necessary experience in apologetics, in that kind of faith. But as I said, choose your battles. Maybe you might not have enough time, so it depends on what you can do, it depends on your circumstances, so choose your battles. But yes, remember that the faith, the truth is